The Zoom BTA-1 Bluetooth adapter. This is the adapter that you need to make your Zoom recorder remote controllable through your phone. With the BTA-1 and free software from Zoom, you can use your Apple iPhone or Android style phone or tablet to remotely control your recorder. And the BTA-1 is compatible with the Zoom F3 recorder and a few other models. Each model of the recorder has its own unique software for its remote control, which, like I mentioned, is free of charge. I think this is a pretty neat device because I find that the controls that are on the F3 recorder and its display are pretty small, and operating the unit through the phone is just so much easier to navigate and read, and I think it makes the operation of the unit a lot easier. I can also see an advantage where you can put the recorder up by the microphone with just a short mic cord, and then you could stand back 10 or maybe 15 feet, maybe where your camera is, for example, and remotely start and stop the recorder and check its status to make sure that it's recording properly. And so I think there's some real advantages here. My initial impression of this is that at the price point of about $40 at the time of shooting this video, that's quite a bit of money for a little USB Bluetooth dongle. But it's not a USB Bluetooth dongle. It's not USB. It's its own custom connector. And so a USB type Bluetooth dongle will not fit in the recorder. If you want this functionality, you need the BTA-1. Accept no substitutes. My second initial observation is, gee, Zoom, it sure would have been nice if you just included this functionality right into the device without having to purchase an extra part for an extra amount of money. I think they could have just added a Bluetooth transceiver to the design of the device for $1 or $2 extra. But I'm not part of their engineering team. I'm not sure how those decisions are made, and it is what it is. But with the BTA-1, I think it really adds some functionality. So let's take a little closer look at it. Installation is super easy. On the recorder, on the side, there is a rubber plug. And you just need to pry that rubber plug out, and pull that out, which yields the connector for the BTA-1. We just take the BTA-1 with its proprietary connector, make sure that the label that says Zoom is on the top, and insert it gently into the slot, and it will just slide right in like so, and that's it. And it just sits right on the edge of the recorder. It protrudes a little tiny bit, but not too significantly. It doesn't get in your way. And that's all you need to do to install the BTA-1. After you've installed the BTA-1 into your F3 recorder, when you turn the recorder on, now it will come up and the first thing you'll see is the Bluetooth menu. And the first option is off, which just runs the recorder as it always has in the past without this module installed. The next option down is called F3 Control, which connects this unit to the F3 Control software that's on your phone or tablet. So you choose that and you hit enter, and then you'll see it saying searching as it's looking for the phone to connect with, which has the F3 Control software running on it. So with the F3 recorder turned on and Bluetooth option enabled, then you start the phone and load up the F3 Control software, and it'll come up to this screen which will show you all of the devices that it sees, and you choose the recorder that you want to connect to, like so. And then it takes a couple of moments here to get connected and synced up to the recorder, and in a moment you'll be able to see all of the functionality of the F3 recorder on your phone. There we go. And so I think that's pretty neat. So let's take a look at a couple screenshots from the F3 Control software. This is the F3 Control main screen, and all of the features that are available on the F3 recorder can be controlled through this application. And in addition to that, this application also gives you the ability to drop markers into your recording, which is not something that can be done using the controls on the device itself. We see this opening screen with track 1 and 2 prominently displayed in the middle upper of the screen. Now this is a screenshot. In real life, those waveforms would be scrolling from right to left. Now, by each track, there is a number 1 and number 2, and on this screen you see that number 1 is illuminated in red, meaning that track 1 is enabled for recording. So you just touch those buttons to enable or disable the tracks that you want to record. Right underneath that track number 1 or 2 is a gear icon that adjusts the properties of the preamplifier for that track. Now on the far right-hand side, you'll see that there is a plus and minus indicator that allows you to adjust the gain for those tracks, and you can tap those controls up and down until you get a proper looking waveform going across the screen for the track. Now let's take a look at what menu items appear when you push the gear button associated with one of the tracks. This brings up the track 1 or track 2 settings. And the first choice is what source, and this could be a standard microphone, a microphone that requires phantom power, or a line level input. Below that we can select the phantom voltage, assuming you're using phantom power, and that could be 48 volts, which would be the standard phantom voltage that should work with all microphones. Or if you have microphones that will happily work with lower voltage levels, you could choose a lower voltage, and that may give you a longer runtime on batteries. The next option below is a high-pass filter, and this allows you to filter out very deep, rumbly bass that may not be contributing positively to your recording. Then we have the phase control, which allows you to swap the phase on the channel if you felt that was necessary in order to get a proper stereo image out of the two input sources or microphones that you're using. And finally, there's the ability to insert a small time delay into the recording of that channel if you have to synchronize that channel with the other channel via insertion of a time delay. So let's go back to the main screen for a moment. And after making those settings on that track, you should be seeing a waveform from your input source, or your microphones, coming across the channel. Let's take a look at the menu options that are available through F3 Control. The menu button is down near the bottom, right above where it says Zoom. Here is the main menu with its 4 options. And the first option is Finder, which allows you to browse the files that are on the memory card of the F3 recorder, your previous recordings, and so you can browse through what you've previously recorded and play back previous recordings through that option. The next choice is Recording, which allows you to set up the basic recording format of the device. That is, if you want to record stereo files, mono files, adjust sample rates, and so forth. Underneath that, we have the date and time, which allows you to set the date and time on the internal clock in the F3 recorder. And finally, we have the ability to see what version software is installed on the F3 recorder. Let's select the Recording menu from here. Here are the recording options available on the F3. Our first choice is the record file name. By default, the unit uses a date stamp, but if you prefer, you can set up custom options for how the device names the files that it records. Below that, we have the sample rate, which can affect the file size and the fidelity. I'm using a sample rate of 48K because that's a standard as used with video production. Then we have the file format, which allows you to choose either stereo or mono files. So you could have the device record a stereo file that contains both tracks 1 and 2, or you can have it create mono files, which would be a separate file for track 1 and 2, or if you only have one track enabled, you'll only get one file recorded. Pre-record is the next option, and that enables the ability to actually start the recording a moment before you actually press the record button. So that helps prevent you from losing anything at the very beginning, just as you're hitting record. And then we have markers, which enable or disable the ability to drop markers onto your files, which would be a quick beep tone indicating start and stop, or markers that you drop in. Now back at the main screen, once again, to begin the recording, all we need to do is to simply tap the circular button down on the lower right, which is the record enable button, and when that button is pressed, the waveform that is scrolling across the screen on your track 1 or track 2 will turn to red, indicating that the unit is now recording, and the time at the top of the screen will start ticking away as elapsed time, showing you how long you've been recording for. To stop recording, just tap the circular red button down near the bottom right once again, and the unit pauses. So I think the BTA-1 and the F3 control software are a real good addition to your F3 recorder. But there are a couple of limitations or annoyances that you should be aware of. And they have to do with the Bluetooth connectivity. One is that it takes a moment to connect the F3 recorder to the phone. Not a big deal. A slightly bigger deal is that, as far as I can tell, and I think this might be a Bluetooth protocol issue, you can really only connect to one device at a time. Now, for most people, that's no issue. But I could imagine a scenario where you might have a couple, 3 recorders that you want to be able to remotely manage. And it would be kind of nice if inside of the software you had the option to select a different recorder so you could manage more than one recorder at a time with the software and switch between the recorders that are operating. But I don't believe that's an option. You can choose which one you want to connect with when you first start the system, and that's that. And the other issue, that's an even bigger issue with Bluetooth connectivity, is that Bluetooth is a pretty short-range protocol. It's good for a solid 10 feet, maybe 20. And if you go outside of range, or you have some kind of signal dropout issue, and your phone disconnects from the recorder, it does not automatically reconnect. And it's more than just a matter of restarting the application on the phone. You have to go to the recorder and go into the Bluetooth menu and reassert a connection, and then go to the phone and restart the application, wait a few moments for that all to hook up and get operational again. So that's a minor inconvenience. Now, I haven't had any connectivity problems, but I've stayed pretty close to the device with the phone. And so that's an issue, is that if you lose connectivity, it doesn't automatically reconnect, and it's a little cumbersome to get reconnected. So I suppose that means if you're remotely controlling the recorder, don't go too far away with your phone. But with those minor issues aside, I think the BTA-1 is a nice upgrade to your F3 recorder, and something that maybe it's worth considering for you. If you're interested in the product, I'll put a link down below. And I appreciate you tuning in, catching the video, and I hope to catch you on another one soon.